Hello, it's Mr. Burns here, ready to introduce the Landmark Supreme Court Case project that you've been assigned. This is a research project that deals with the judicial branch primarily, but also it's going to look specifically at one case that you will be assigned. That case will most likely have something to do with students in schools, or it will have something to do with one of the amendments that we've talked about this school year. So it's going to be something that's relevant to you, and it's going to be something that you can showcase in a couple of different ways. So the objective there at the in the middle, kind of toward the top there, says that summarize your assigned Supreme Court case by researching the facts and history of the case, completing a summary graphic organizer shared with you in Google Classroom, and creating a Google Slides presentation or picture book that explains the importance of the case and how and why this case has impacted our society. So I will give you the case, and what you'll do is you'll write the case in this, the first person listed you'll write here, the second person you'll have listed right here, and you'll write the year in this space right here. Everyone in your class that's doing this project will have a different Supreme Court case. There's a chance that you and one other person might have the same case, but most likely you will not have the same case as anyone else. Okay, so the project is broken up into three parts. So part one is you're going to start researching. I'm going to put some websites on Blackboard. We're going to go to the Media Center the day after I introduce this project. There's also going to be some textbooks that you can use in the encyclopedias that you can use. Some databases that the library and media staff will give you that are really effective, really comprehensive, so that you can do some research, some reading. You want to read first, you want to get an understanding, you want to define key terms, understand what's going on in the case, and what why it was brought up to the Supreme Court, and what are the two sides, why did they disagree, and what was the decision and why was that decision made, and then how did that impact society. So we're going to go, so you want to make sure you do your reading, you want to understand the topic of the case, you want to do a reading on the sources and make sure you're using credible sources, and we're going to talk about that in the Media Center, like I said. And once you feel like you've got your research done and you have a lot of information written down, maybe you wrote this in a Google Doc, or maybe you wrote it on a sheet of paper, organized it in a way that's effective for you, then you're going to fill out the graphic organizer that I shared with you on Google Classroom. And you're responsible for completing that graphic organizer by the due date. Now that due date, of course, at this time of year, I always have to say this, that you never know, that could change. But as of right now, that's the due date where your research should be done and the graphic organizer should be turned in on Google Classroom. It will be due at the end of class that day. In theory, that's the day that we are doing some test review, and then when we finish the test review, you'll have the rest of the class to work. Okay, so this is what the graphic organizer looks like. Okay. So this is the information that I've given you, and this information you'll just write in here. Then this is where you start to do your research. Okay, so the main idea, the background information. So the main idea is just what part of the Constitution is this focusing on, and what does it say in the Constitution about that topic. And then the background is kind of like the story of the case. So what happened? Why did we get here? Okay. All right. Then there's always two sides to every story. So in the green box, it says, what is the side one, the name listed first? What do they think that the government or the appeals court has done wrong? Right? So what have they done wrong? They're listed first because they're the ones that are bringing it on appeal to the Supreme Court. They lost at the appeals court. Okay. The second side thinks there isn't a problem. They believe that the appeals court is correct, that the appeals court has, answered the question successfully, and what the name is to say, what do they believe has been done right, what's their side of the story. Okay. Once you get that done, you kind of have the background of the main idea and the two sides, then you come over to the orange or peach box and you fill in, what side won the case, or what side, did the Supreme Court say, and what was the vote in the Supreme Court? Was it 5-4? Was it 6-3? 7-2? Unanimous? What was the vote? Okay. And then here in your opinion, at least 3 sentences that explains, whether you agree or disagree with the decision, why you might want to draw on some past experiences with the subject, or just your opinion about the subject, or, based on what we learned in civics. And then the last part is maybe the most difficult part, is what kind of impact did this decision have on today's society? So how have things changed, or how have things remained the same since this case? Have there been other cases that have been linked to it? And most of the research that you'll do will kind of connect you between your case and, the present time. Okay? So that's the graphic organizer. This is where you're going to establish your research and write everything out. I will comment on this, provide you with some positive feedback so that you can take this graphic organizer and turn it into an actual presentation. Okay? So going back to the project sheet. So the final design is part 3. You'll have a couple weeks to do that. Once your research is done, the final design is taking the graphic organizer and turning it into your project. So this part's a little bit easier. You're going to choose one of the 2 options. Option A is a summary presentation on Google Slides, which I will have the opportunity to share with you later on once we're done with our research. So that'll be something forthcoming. And it kind of gives you here a list of slides that you want to include, and it's basically the graphic organizer in order. And of course, the last slide you want to add, you want to source everything that you pulled information from: websites, books, encyclopedias, wherever you got your information from, and make sure they're legit sources. Okay, and of course, when you're done with that part, summary presentation, you would turn in that on Google Classroom as well. Now, if you want to do something a little more artistic, I know some of you are a little more into the drawing and using freehand and things like that. You can also do a summary picture book instead of doing a summary presentation, where you tell the story through words and pictures. Okay, so use computer paper. Fold the paper in half. Put a title page. Then the 7 pages you're going to follow the graphic organizer just like you would have on the Google Slides. And you're going to have at least 1 to 2 colored pictures on each page with the story of what's going on. You're going to do it like a picture book, like a storybook. Okay, so it might be a little more informal. And then I would wait to staple the book until the very end, or bind the book at the end, right? But you're going to summarize it, and then you're going to list the sources maybe on the last page. Last year, a couple years ago, I had students who would do, 8 pages is pretty sufficient, but if you want to make it a little more detailed, you can do a 3rd piece of computer paper, which would make 12 pages. Okay, if you need to leave 1 blank in there, maybe the second to last or the back of it blank, or you just want to put some drawings on the back, that's fine. Okay, and then the due date here is listed. Again, that's subject to change if possible, if needed, and you will turn in part 3 that day. Okay, here's an example I'll show you real quick of someone who did a picture book. Okay, you can kind of see she did it in like a little mini binder. She put some pictures on the front. She put her title here, right, her case title. Okay. Then she went from here, she did some colored drawings, she has some text here. Okay. She kind of went on the story and did it in order. So she did it like this. Really nice, really well organized, really good example. And I can show you this in class if you'd like to. And then of course at the end, she included her sources. Really important. Okay. Alright, so there's an example there. This is what the summary presentation that's shared with you will look like. Again, it's just going to be pretty simple. But of course, you can use different slide designs, different slide layouts if you want. But this is like the bare minimum. If you want to add extra, you can. You fill in all this information. You go up to your format, your insert, your format to change the slide layout or change the background. You want to do some transitions or whatever you want to do to make that a little bit more interesting. Maybe change the background color. And go from there. Here's the rubric. So 30 points would be on accuracy and your presentation itself. 15 being the highest that you can get. 10 or lower. And then here is the MYP portion, the investigating and communication, because you're doing research and you're communicating, and that's up to 40. So the project will be a total of 70 points. And this will be posted to Google Classroom as well, along with a copy of the project sheet and your graphic organizer that you need to fill in by the due date that was posted here. Okay? So if you have any questions about that, just let me know, and we'll go from there. And again, you've been assigned a case, and you're going to focus on that case. All right? Thank you.